What is one secret your parents can never know? It was me who superglued the fridge shut. I just blamed it on my brother. I was brought up in a pretty religious home. My family had me in theater, choir, youth group, and all kinds of other extracurricular activities to keep me out of trouble. So they trusted me pretty well. One night I was about 15. My boyfriend at the time had come over to watch movies. The stipulation was that we could lay in the bed and watch the movie, but the door had to be open. After a while, my mom came in to check on us and everything was fine. So she thanked my boyfriend for being a gentleman and shut the door on her way out. Immediately, as if the door shut had triggered some teenage hormone overload, we started making out and fooling around. He slid his hand up my shirt for a bit, but finally having some privacy, I soon directed his hand to mine a bits. Yay first. We never got caught, which was considered a major triumph, and we found ways after that to hook up without my parents knowing. It wasn't until a few months later at my youth's purity ball, yes, we signed pledges and wore rings to signify our abstinence for God and marriage, that my dad delivered this humiliating speech. He told the congregation he was proud of the strong lady I had become, that regardless of having a boyfriend, I stood up to teen peer pressure and hormones, and that he witnessed me deflect an attempt at immoral behavior while watching movies with my boyfriend one night. Apparently, the blinds had been open and my bed faced them from in the house. He happened to be walking in from the garage and caught a peek at me removing my boyfriend's hand from my boob. I was mortified. The secret he must never know. He thought I deflected my boyfriend from touching my boobs, when in reality I was actually directing him much further south. Too long didn't read. Dad thought I was sitting on the bench for God, when I was really rounding second with David. Replaced bourbon from a priceless bottle of liquor with Evan Williams when I was 15. I found out later my parents were saving the bottle for their 50th anniversary. It was given to them by my great grandpa at their wedding. Still have 23 years to break the news. After my sis died, I locked myself in her room and went through everything alone before her friends or my parents went through her stuff to pack it away or give it to her friends. I found naked pics, empty bottles of alcohol and a letter she had wrote, but I guess never gave, to her then boyfriend, telling him the story of how she was raped as a younger teenager. I threw everything like that out, but kept that letter. It's been 12 years and I just found the letter again as I was packing up to make room for baby. I can't bring myself to throw it away. I was 10ish and my dad had just painted the boiler room door orange in our basement. My younger brother and I were pushing each other around on a scatterboard in basement and my dad warned us, "Don't you dare hit this door with your skateboard." 15 minutes later I'm picking my brother up from the ground and looking at a hole in my dad's orange door caused by said skateboard. Definitely not telling dad. Instead I grab a piece of orange construction paper and a glue stick to patch the hole. It matched surprisingly well. 27 years later that construction paper is still holding strong, and I have never heard a word about it from my pop. This happened in my freshman year of high school. So one of my friends got a hold of some weed, and I haven't tried it before, so we had the stupid idea to smoke it. He came over along with some other friends of mine. The original plan was to go to forest near my house to smoke it, but it was cold, so we didn't want to. One of us wanted to smoke it on my porch, but I disagreed. I forgot how, but we came up with the stupidest idea and hot box in my bathroom. Keep in mind my parents were gonna be home from work in an hour, and if they found out my life would be done. We quickly made a shitty bong out of a Gatorade bottle, then removed everything from my bathroom. We lit up the weed and smoked for like 10 minutes. Once we were done we quickly cleaned up and emptied a whole Axe bottle in the bathroom. My friends being stoned as duck left, I went back upstairs to check the bathroom and it smelled like flat out weed. I tried to use every possible thing to get the smell out, but it didn't work. I called my parents, they have the same job, and they said they were 15 minutes away. I knew I was ducked. Now keep in mind my parents are extremely strict and if they caught me, I would be over. This is when I thought of the stupidest thing any sane human would think. Burn my bathroom down. I ended up lighting some towels on fire and trying my hardest to burn the sink area. It ended up catching on fire, but it was slow. I quickly called 911 and 3 minutes later fire department. I see fire trucks out my house. They took care of the fire and my parents came home shocked. Half of my bathroom was charred and the door knocked down. Fire department said it was probably an electrical current from the outlet that burned the towel. I slept that night thinking how stupid I was and what I just did. To this day my parents don't know. Too long didn't read hotboxed in my bathroom and set fire to it to get the smell out and prevent from being caught. Parents still think it was an accident. When you guys went to Hawaii I put Milo Cat down. He was sick, in incredible pain, couldn't eat or drink, couldn't even move to get to the litter box. When you left on vacation he was too weak to even yell in pain anymore. I couldn't stand to see that cat in so much pain and so afraid, so I did the only thing I could do to help him end his life humanely. My parents were 100% against putting down a pet regardless of how much it is suffering, so they'd be beyond mad if they knew this. One time I dropped an entire roll of toilet paper into the bowl when trying to change it. I didn't want them to know I ruined an entire roll, so I hid it in my closet, and over a course of a few weeks I would rip away pieces and throw them away. So, when I was 6 or 7 we had Christmas with the extended family. One of my uncles was there, and I was always a bit afraid of him, because he had done some time for a drug charge and just gotten out within the last year or two. Anyway, I walk into the kitchen at one point, and he is there with this giant wedge of cheese. He looks up and asks if I wanted any. I nod, because I ducking love cheese. He says okay, but you cannot tell your parents, because you'll ruin your dinner, they will get mad at me, and he slices me a few pieces. We eat in silence, and then I leave, convinced that I was an accomplice in some terrible act with my ex-con uncle. To this day, I have never told my parents as to what would happen if they found out. Well, then they would know that the reason I didn't eat that one Christmas dinner in the early 90s was because I had already filled up on expensive cheese. My sister and I were reading through my mom's old high school yearbook, and we kept seeing everyone sign saying something along the lines of, "Congrats, you and X are perfect together. X is not our dad." And we had never heard X's name mentioned before. After a little more digging we found out she had married X right out of high school, divorced, then married our father. Neither of us really cared, but it was still a huge shock she hasn't told us now that we are both in our mid-20s. My dad always tells me I was so whipped by my girlfriend back in high school, and the example he always uses is that one time she told me to change out of my sweatshirt. What really happened is that she pointed out the huge cum stain that she left on my sweatshirt the night before, and I figured I should change it to avoid awkwardness on our day out with my family. My dad thinks I lost my virginity earlier than I actually did. He thought he'd walked in on me post-sex with my GF at the time, but we'd actually just been play fighting, and the moment he walked in was the moment she decided to put the strap for her top back on her shoulder. After that I find out my dad's told half of my family about this, and despite me trying to tell him I hadn't done anything, he claimed to have believed me, but didn't. So he'll never know when I actually did, because he believes a lie. When I was 8, me and my sister cracked my dad's chessboard. We hid the pieces in someone else's trash can. My dad has had it since he was 11. He was 46 at the time, and he was fuming mad. He thought he lost it, and he still does. When I got engaged, my very Catholic mother whispered to me, "Has he tried to kiss you yet?" I'm a semi-famous dominatrix, and have been since 3 years before she asked that question. My address. My parents are psychotic. When I was younger I read in my mom's journal that she had an abortion before she was pregnant with me. She doesn't know that I know, and I'm not sure how she would react. I'm just glad they decided to keep the second pregnancy. I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations are up on this one, so why not? I was a junior in high school and had some friends into LAN parties who were seniors. but I couldn't really join them because my family was pretty poor and neither them or I could afford a computer for me to use at that time. So one day my older friends gave me one of their older PCs, Pentium 3 with a couple parts missing, RAM, HDD, that I could build out for myself. Now about 15 years later it's turned out to be a great jumping off point because now I'm a successful system administrator and love working in the IT field. And I owe it in many ways to that first computer I learned to build back up from scratch and make my own. Only they didn't give me that computer. We stole it from the high school. Sorry not sorry. I totaled my first car when I was 16. They knew about that. They came to pick me up and talked to the police officer while I was moving things from my car to Fizz. What they didn't know about was the liter of vodka in my trunk, which I quickly and quietly speed walked to my parents' trunk. Neither the cop nor my parents knew a thing. I very nearly shat my pants. Disclaimer: I did not drink and drive. The trunk was just the only place my parents never checked, and I happened to be a rowdy teenager. I can never tell them that my one goal as a parent is to handle relationship issues differently than they did. They went through an extremely messy divorce when I was 8 and my only memory of them together is them screaming at each other and my sister and I hiding in our rooms. Then it was 10+ years of them talking shit about each other to us, putting us in the middle of all their arguments, and giving us a huggy guilt trip whenever they felt like we were spending more time with the other one than with them. It's been 20 years now, and my mom will still talk shit about my dad and stepmom every once in a while, despite me asking her over and over to stop. I'm happily married, but if I were to ever get divorced I will never put my daughter in the middle of arguments, speak badly about her father to her, or make her feel guilty for having a relationship with him. It's the one thing I learned from my parents and I think they would be devastated to realize the true effect it has had on me. I was molested as a child by a babysitter 10 years older than I. My parents were trying to help her out because she was having issues in her abusive home. Her father was tossed in jail. This went on from what I can remember for at least 2 years. I was 5 years old. I didn't tell anyone until I started dating at 14. My parents do not know because A, they were trying to help her, and I felt sorry for her. I realized that her hurting me voids this, but for a preschooler's mind it didn't work that way. B, by the time I felt I could say something, so much time had passed that all I could see happening was me hurting my parents, making them blame themselves. Why do that? I see this person from time to time in passing at the supermarket. We have mutual acquaintances. People bring her up. That bothers me. I don't care what is happening in her life. I think she was going through some ducked up shit and passed it on. I feel sorry for her. When I see her I look her in the eye and stand strong. Almost to say, you know what you did, and I'm not broken because of it. When I was in elementary school, I was at Target with my mom and sister. At the checkout counter I saw these cinnamon flavored Tic Tacs, and I had to have them because I hadn't fully developed the whole want need function in my brain. I knew my mom wouldn't buy them for me, so I grabbed them sneakily and put them in my pocket sneakily. I felt pretty guilty the whole way home and didn't make eye contact with anyone in case they could read my mind. As soon as I was inside the safety of my home, I made my way upstairs sneakily and opened my hot goods. They were awful. Easily my least favorite Tic Tac. I ended up throwing them in the garbage can outside sneakily to avoid any suspicion. This is my shame, and I carry it alone. Except now with theoretically thousands of people. Too long didn't read the only time I ever stole anything. The fruits of my victory turn rotten in my mouth. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.